The Galactic Senate Chamber was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the void between 3 star systems, a monument to cooperation and peace. 10,000 species had come together to create it. The dome alone could hold a small moon inside it. Today, the chamber was almost empty. Ambassador Kethra of the Velthari Collective stood at the central platform. Her blue skin glowed softly under the artificial lights. She had 4 eyes, and all of them showed her the same disappointing sight. Only 47 senators had come to hear her speak. Out of 10,000 member species, only 47 cared about what she had to say. She understood why. The topic was old. The mystery was cold. 47 years had passed since the Draconian Armada vanished. Most species had moved on. They had wars to fight, trade deals to make, planets to colonize. Nobody wanted to talk about ghosts. But Kethra could not move on. She had spent her entire career studying the disappearance. She had read every report, analyzed every piece of data, and interviewed every witness she could find, and she had found something that terrified her. "Honored senators," she began, her voice steady despite her fear. "Thank you for coming. I know this topic seems unimportant to many of you. The Draconian Empire fell decades ago. Their territory has been divided among a dozen species. Their name is becoming a footnote in history books." She paused and looked around the chamber. A few senators were already checking their communication devices. Others whispered to their aides. Only a handful actually watched her. "But I must ask you to listen," she continued, "because what I have discovered changes everything we know about the galaxy and about ourselves." She pressed a button on her podium. The lights dimmed, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a star map with a small yellow dot at the edge. "This is Sol," Kethra said. "A minor star in an unremarkable region of space. 47 years ago, our long-range sensors detected a primitive civilization on the 3rd planet orbiting this star. They called their world Earth." The display zoomed in to show a blue and green planet. Oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds swirled in its atmosphere. It looked peaceful, beautiful, even. The humans of Earth had just begun to explore their own solar system, Kethra explained. They had primitive spacecraft, basic computers, nuclear weapons, which they had foolishly aimed at each other. By every measure, they were a young species, violent, divided, and weak. She changed the display. Now it showed a fleet of warships so massive that it blocked out the stars behind it. The Draconian Empire decided to conquer them. A few senators shifted in their seats. Everyone remembered the Draconians. They had been the most feared species in the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their warriors were bred for combat. Their ships were engines of destruction. They had conquered over 300 worlds and enslaved billions of beings. Supreme Commander Vorath led the invasion fleet personally, Kethra said. He brought 12,000 warships, 80 million soldiers, the largest armada the Draconians had ever assembled for a single conquest. She let that number sink in. 12,000 warships. Most species considered 100 ships to be a powerful fleet. The Draconians had sent 100 times that number to crush a species that had barely left its own planet. It was excessive, Kethra admitted. But Commander Vorath was cautious. He had studied the humans from afar. He noted their rapid technological progress. He saw how they had gone from simple farming to nuclear power in just a few centuries. He worried that if he waited too long, they might become a real threat. The display changed again. Now it showed Commander Vorath himself. He was a massive creature, 3 meters tall, with scales the color of dried blood. His eyes were yellow and cold. His mouth was full of teeth designed for tearing flesh. He wore armor made from the bones of his enemies. Vorath sent his final message to the Draconian homeworld on the day his fleet entered Earth's solar system, Kethra said. He was confident. He expected the conquest to take less than 1 planetary rotation. The humans had no defenses that could stop even 1 Draconian warship, let alone 12,000. She played the message. Vorath's deep voice filled the chamber. "Today we claim another world for the eternal glory of the Draconian Empire. The humans will learn what all species learn. Resistance is death. Submission is slavery. There is no third option. By tomorrow, their planet will burn, and their survivors will serve us until they are no longer useful. This is the way of things. This is our right as the supreme species of the galaxy." The message ended. Kethra looked at the senators. That was the last transmission we ever received from the Draconian Armada. Silence fell over the chamber. Even the senators who had been distracted now paid attention. No victory announcement, Kethra said. No casualty report. No request for reinforcements. Nothing. 12,000 warships and 80 million soldiers simply stopped existing. She changed the display to show a timeline. Red markers indicated the expected communication schedule. Blue markers showed actual communications received. After the first red marker, there was nothing but empty space. The Draconian Empire sent search parties, Kethra continued. 3 of them. Over the following decade, none returned. None sent any messages after entering Earth's solar system. Eventually, the Empire stopped sending ships. They quarantined the entire region of space and classified all information about Earth. An old senator from the Groth Federation raised one of his tentacles. Ambassador, we know all of this. The Draconian Empire collapsed from internal rebellion, not from whatever happened at Earth. Their government fell, their records were scattered, and the mystery was never solved. Why are you bringing this up now? Kethra had expected this question. She nodded slowly. Because I found something, Senator. Something the Draconians tried to hide. Something that changes everything. She pressed another button. A new recording played. This one was different. The audio was broken and full of static. The video showed only glimpses of darkness and flashing lights, but the voice was unmistakable. It was Commander Vorath, and he was screaming. They came from below, from the water, from the darkness. Our weapons do nothing. Our shields do nothing. Something is taking my soldiers. The transmission cut out, then came back for a moment. Not the humans. Something else. Something that was waiting. They knew we were coming. More static. Then Vorath's voice again, quieter now. Almost a whisper. It is in my ship. It is in the walls. I can hear it moving. It does not walk. It does not crawl. It shifts. It exists in places that should not exist. I have served the Empire for 300 years. I have conquered worlds. I have broken armies. I have never known fear. But now I understand. Now I see what we truly are. We are small. We are blind. We are nothing. The recording ended with a sound that made several senators cry out in shock. It was a noise that should not have been possible. It was the sound of something vast and terrible laughing. The chamber fell silent again. Kethra could see the fear in the eyes of those who had listened. I found this recording in a hidden archive on the former Draconian homeworld, she said. It was buried under layers of encryption. Someone wanted it to stay hidden forever. The Groth senator spoke again, his voice less confident now. What does this mean, Ambassador? What happened to the Armada? Kethra took a deep breath. This was the part she had dreaded. I do not know, she admitted. But I have a theory. The humans did not defeat the Draconian Armada. They could not have. Even with hidden technology, even with secret weapons, no primitive species could destroy 12,000 warships without leaving any wreckage, without any survivors, without any trace. She pointed at the frozen image of Earth still floating in the display. Something else lives on that planet. Something that was there before the humans. Something that was waiting. An ambassador from the Crystalline Dominion spoke up. Are you suggesting that Earth is home to some kind of ancient predator? A species that somehow hid from our sensors? I am suggesting, Kethra said carefully, that there are things in this galaxy that we do not understand, things that our science cannot explain, and one of those things lives on Earth. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some senators called her theory ridiculous. Others demanded more evidence. A few simply left, unwilling to engage with what they saw as fantasy. Kethra waited for the noise to die down. Then she spoke again. I am not asking you to believe me. I am asking you to take precautions. The quarantine around Earth's solar system has been ignored for years. Smugglers pass through it. Research vessels skirt its edges. Criminal organizations use it as a hiding spot because they know no one patrols it. She looked directly at the senators who remained. I am asking for a formal vote to reinforce the quarantine, to make it absolute, to ensure that no ship from any member species ever enters Earth's solar system again. The vote happened quickly. Kethra watched as the numbers appeared on the display. In favor, 23. Against, 24. The motion failed. The Speaker of the Senate, a tall being made entirely of light, announced the result. The motion to reinforce the Earth quarantine has been rejected. The current minimal quarantine will remain in effect. This matter is now closed. Kethra felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had failed. Again, as the senators began to leave, one of them approached her. He was from a species she did not recognize. His body was covered in gray fur, and his eyes were completely black. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "I voted in your favor. I want you to know that." "Thank you," she replied, though it did not help. The stranger nodded. "I have seen things in my travels, things that science cannot explain. I believe your theory is closer to the truth than most of our colleagues want to admit." "Then why will no one listen?" The stranger smiled sadly. "Because the truth is terrifying, Ambassador, and most species would rather feel safe than be prepared." He turned to leave, then stopped. "A word of advice," he said. "Stop investigating Earth. Stop looking for answers. Some doors are better left closed, and some questions are better left unasked." He walked away before Kethra could respond. She stood alone in the empty chamber, staring at the holographic image of Earth that still floated in the display. Such a small planet, such a quiet place. It was hard to believe that anything dangerous could live there. But the recording played again in her mind. Commander Vorath, the most feared warrior in the galaxy, screaming in terror, talking about things that moved through walls, things that existed in impossible spaces, things that laughed at the death of armies. She thought about the 47 years of silence. No distress signals, no wreckage, no explanation, just nothing, as if the Armada had been swallowed by the void itself. And she thought about the humans, those strange, soft creatures with their fragile bodies and their short lives. What were they doing down there on their blue-green world? Did they know what lived among them? Were they prisoners? Victims? Or something else entirely? The questions burned in her mind. The stranger had told her to stop investigating, to leave the mystery alone, to accept that some things were beyond understanding. But Kethra had never been good at accepting things. She had built her career on finding answers where others saw only questions. She had uncovered secrets that powerful beings wanted to stay hidden. She had faced threats before, though never a threat like this. She looked at Earth one more time. The planet seemed to stare back at her. Peaceful, innocent, beautiful, and somehow, impossibly, hungry. She shivered and turned off the display. The chamber fell into darkness. As she walked toward the exit, she made a decision. She would continue her investigation. She would find the truth about Earth, no matter what it cost her. She owed it to the 80 million Draconian soldiers who had vanished into silence. She owed it to the galaxy that refused to see the danger at its edge. And perhaps, she thought, she owed it to the humans themselves, whatever they were, whatever role they played in this mystery. Outside the chamber, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy, a small blue planet orbited a yellow sun, and something on that planet was waiting, patient, ancient, hungry. The galaxy had ignored the warning. The Senate had rejected her motion. The quarantine would remain weak, and eventually someone would enter Earth's solar system again. When that happened, Kethra knew. The silence would claim more victims. She only hoped she would find the truth before it was too late, before whatever lived on Earth decided to stop waiting. Before the door opened from the inside, Kethra walked into the darkness between stars, her 4 eyes fixed on the distant light of Sol. She did not know what she would find. She did not know if she would survive the search, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Draconian Armada had not simply vanished. Something had taken them. Something had kept them. And somewhere in the darkness of Earth, in places that should not exist, 80 million warriors were learning what it truly meant to be conquered. The thought followed her into the cold void of space, and far away, on a small blue world, something ancient smiled. It could feel her curiosity, her determination, her fear. It could wait. It had been waiting for a very long time. 12 years had passed since Ambassador Kethra addressed the Galactic Senate. 12 years of silence from Earth. 12 years of the galaxy, slowly forgetting the mystery that had consumed her life. Kethra herself had disappeared 3 years after her failed motion. Some said she had retired to her homeworld. Others whispered that she had gone to Earth herself, searching for answers that would never come. No one knew the truth. No one particularly cared. The galaxy had moved on. New wars were fought. New alliances were formed. The Draconian Empire became nothing more than a chapter in history books, their territory divided among species that had once feared them. Commander Vorith's name was forgotten by all but the oldest scholars, but not everyone had forgotten about Earth. Warlord Drenix of the Mordax Syndicate stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Hunger. He was a massive creature, even by Mordax standards. His body was covered in thick plates of natural armor. His forearms ended in claws that could tear through steel. His face was a nightmare of teeth and eyes that saw in every spectrum of light. He had built the Syndicate from nothing. 50 years ago, he had been a slave in the mining colonies of the Outer Rim. Now he commanded the largest criminal organization in 3 sectors. His fleet numbered over 1,000 ships. His soldiers were the deadliest mercenaries money could buy. And today, he was going to do what the entire Draconian Empire could not. "Show me the planet again," he ordered. The holographic display flickered to life. Earth appeared before him, rotating slowly. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked exactly like it had in the old Draconian recordings. Nothing had changed. Such a small world, Drenix muttered. So ordinary. His second in command, a scarred female named Vexus, stepped forward. "Warlord, the fleet is ready. 200 ships, as you ordered, our best stealth vessels and our most experienced crews." "Good." Drenix turned to face her. "Do the crews understand the mission?" "They understand they will be paid well," Vexus replied. "That is all mercenaries need to understand." Drenix laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. "True enough, but make sure they also understand the rules. No weapons fire until I give the order. No communication outside the fleet. We go in silent, we observe, and we take what we find." "And what do you expect to find, Warlord?" Drenix turned back to the display. His many eyes studied the small planet with an intensity that bordered on obsession. "The Draconians were fools," he said. "They went to Earth expecting a battle. They brought weapons when they should have brought sensors. They saw the humans as prey when they should have seen them as bait." Vexus tilted her head. "Bait for what?" "For whatever killed 12,000 warships without leaving a single piece of wreckage." Drenix smiled, showing rows of serrated teeth. "Something that powerful did not simply vanish after the battle. It is still there, waiting. And anything that powerful must be valuable. You want to capture it? I want to understand it, control it, sell it to the highest bidder." He clasped 2 of his hands together. "Imagine what the galaxy would pay for a weapon that can destroy entire armadas. Imagine what the great empires would sacrifice to own such a thing." Vexus said nothing. She had served Drenix for 20 years. She had seen him take risks that would have killed lesser warlords. She had watched him build an empire on blood and audacity. But this felt different. This felt like madness. "You have doubts," Drenix observed. "I have concerns," she admitted. "The Draconians were not fools, whatever you say. Commander Vorath was a brilliant tactician. If something defeated him so completely, then it deserves my respect." Drenix interrupted. "And I will give it respect. We are not going to attack Earth. We are going to observe it, study it, learn its secrets from a safe distance." He gestured at the fleet displayed behind the hologram of Earth. 200 ships in perfect formation. The best the Syndicate had to offer. "We have stealth technology the Draconians never dreamed of. We have sensors that can detect a single bacteria on a planet's surface. We will see whatever killed the Armada long before it sees us." Vexus wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him that whatever killed the Draconians probably did not care about stealth technology or advanced sensors, but she knew it would be useless. Drenix had made his decision. The fleet would go to Earth. She only hoped some of them would return. The fleet departed the next morning. 200 ships slipped into hyperspace, leaving behind the familiar stars of Syndicate territory. Communications. Officer Yanara sat at her station on the flagship, monitoring the constant stream of data that flowed between the ships. She was young for a Mordax, barely 40 years old. Her armor was still smooth and unmarked by battle scars. She had joined the Syndicate because it offered adventure and wealth far beyond what she could find in legitimate society. She had never expected to be part of something like this. "Nervous?" asked the sensor operator beside her. His name was Korath, and he had been with the Syndicate for over a century. "Should I be?" Yanara asked. Korath shrugged his massive shoulders. Probably. I've been to a lot of places in this galaxy, seen a lot of things that would give most species nightmares, but I've never seen anything that made the Draconians disappear. Maybe they just had bad luck. A solar flare, like the official reports say. Korath laughed bitterly. Solar flares don't scream about things in the walls, little one. Solar flares don't take prisoners. Yenara felt a chill run down her spine. You heard the recording? The one from Commander Vorath? Everyone's heard it. Drenix played it for the senior officers before the mission briefing. He said it was important for us to understand what we might be facing. Korath's many eyes darkened. I think he just wanted to show us that even the greatest warriors in galactic history could be broken. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of silence and tension. 3 days of crews checking and rechecking their equipment. 3 days of soldiers sharpening weapons they hoped they would not need to use. On the morning of the 4th day, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Yenara's screens lit up with data. She began analyzing the information automatically, her training taking over. Distance to the yellow star, 14 billion kilometers. Planetary bodies detected, 8. Artificial satellites in orbit around the 3rd planet, thousands. Confirm our position, Drenix ordered from his command chair. Confirmed, Warlord, Yenara replied. We are at the outer edge of the system. The planet designated Earth is approximately 7 billion kilometers away. Stealth status? All ships report full stealth mode active. We are invisible to any detection technology we know of. Drenix leaned forward. Begin long-range scans of the 3rd planet. I want to know everything about it before we move closer. The next several hours passed slowly. The fleet hung in the darkness, invisible and silent, while sensors probed the distant blue world. Yenara processed the data as it came in, building a picture of Earth piece by piece. The humans were still there. Their cities glowed on the night side of the planet. Their satellites circled overhead. Their radio transmissions filled the frequencies with a chaos of voices, music, and data. They seemed completely unaware that they were being watched. Primitive, Vexus observed as she studied the data. Their technology has advanced since the Draconian invasion, but not by much. They still use chemical rockets. They still communicate with radio waves. They are barely capable of leaving their own planet, and yet 12,000 warships could not conquer them. Drenix replied. Continue scanning. Look for anything unusual. It was Korath who found it. Warlord, he said, his voice strange. I'm detecting something on the dark side of their moon. What kind of something? Structures. Massive ones. And they're not human. The bridge fell silent. Drenix rose from his chair and walked to Korath's station. He studied the sensor data for a long moment. How massive? He asked quietly. Each structure is at least 50 kilometers tall. There appear to be 7 of them, arranged in a pattern on the lunar surface. Korath's claws trembled slightly as he worked his controls. The materials don't match anything in our database. The architecture is wrong. The angles don't make sense. I can't even tell if they're buildings or something else entirely. Drenix's eyes gleamed with greed. This is it. This is what the Draconians found. This is what killed them, or what they woke up. Vexus said grimly. Move the fleet closer. I want detailed scans of those structures. The ships began their approach. They moved slowly, maintaining perfect stealth, drifting through the darkness like shadows. Yenara watched her screens carefully, monitoring for any sign that they had been detected. There was nothing. The humans continued their oblivious lives on the planet below. The structures on the moon remained still and silent. The fleet crept closer. They were halfway to the moon when everything went wrong. It started with the lights. Every screen on the bridge flickered once, twice, then died completely. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the room in red light. Report! Drenix shouted. Power failure across all systems. Yenara's fingers flew over her controls. Not just us. I'm receiving distress signals from the entire fleet. Every ship is experiencing the same thing. That's impossible. Our ships have independent power cores. They can't all fail at the same time. They're not failing. Warlord. Korath's voice was barely a whisper. They're being drained. Something is pulling the energy out of our systems. Drenix turned to the main view screen. It was dark, but through the emergency lighting, he could see the stars outside. No, not stars. The stars were gone. There was only darkness now. Darkness and something else. Something that was moving. "What is that?" Vexus asked. Her voice had lost all its confidence. Yanara managed to get one sensor array online for a brief moment. What she saw would haunt her for the rest of her life. Something was rising from Earth's ocean. Something so large that it defied comprehension. It was not a creature in any sense she understood. It was more like a piece of reality had been torn away, leaving a wound in the shape of something alive. It had no definite form. It shifted and changed as she watched. One moment it seemed to have tentacles. The next moment it was all mouths. The next moment it was simply darkness in the shape of hunger. And it was looking at them. They were waiting, Yanara heard herself say. They've been waiting. The thing from the ocean reached toward the fleet. It moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. Ships began to disappear. Not destroyed, disappeared. Swallowed by the darkness without a sound. Screams filled the communication channels. Soldiers who had faced death 1,000 times crying out in terror. Captains who had never known fear begging for mercy. The darkness answered none of them. "Get us out of here," Drenix roared. "Full power to engines. Brake for the edge of the system." "We have no power," Yanara shouted back. "Nothing is working. We're dead in space." The flagship shuddered. Something was touching the hull. Not outside the hull, inside the walls. Yanara could hear it moving through the metal, crawling through the ship itself. The emergency lights began to die. Darkness crept across the bridge, and in that darkness, shapes began to form. Shapes that should not exist. Shapes with too many angles and not enough dimensions. Drenix fired his personal weapon at the nearest shape. The energy bolt passed through it without effect. The shape reached for him with something that might have been a hand. The last thing Yanara did was activate the emergency beacon. She did not know if it would work. She did not know if anyone would receive it. But she had to try. "Send more," she whispered. It was a joke. A desperate, terrified joke. Words she would never have spoken if she had known they would be heard. Then the darkness took her too. The Mordak Syndicate received the message 3 days later. It was not a distress call. It was not a warning. It was a simple transmission, sent from Earth on a frequency that should have been impossible to use. The voice was Yanara's, but the words were not hers. Send more. Warlord Drenix was dead. His fleet was gone. 200 ships and 30,000 soldiers had vanished without a trace, just like the Draconian Armada before them. And somewhere on Earth, something ancient was laughing. The message played again and again in the Syndicate's command center. No one knew what to do with it. No one knew how to respond, but everyone understood what it meant. Earth was not undefended. Earth was not primitive. Earth was a trap, and whatever lived there was not trying to hide. It was inviting them to try again. Some doors, an old ambassador had once warned, are better left closed. No one had listened. And now, 30,000 more souls had learned the truth the hard way. The galaxy continued to spin. The stars continued to burn. And on a small blue planet at the edge of explored space, something continued to wait. It had tasted draconian. It had tasted Mordax. Both had been interesting. Both had been satisfying. But it was still hungry. And sooner or later, the galaxy would send more. It always did. The medical station had no name. It existed in the space between systems, hidden in an asteroid field that no official maps acknowledged. Pirates used it sometimes. Smugglers. Fugitives. Anyone who needed to disappear for a while. Kethra had been hiding there for 8 years. She was not the same person who had addressed the Galactic Senate all those years ago. Her blue skin had faded to gray. Her 4 eyes had lost their brightness. She had spent everything she had, her career, her reputation, her savings chasing the mystery of Earth, and she had found nothing. Every lead ended in silence. Every witness died before she could interview them. Every piece of evidence vanished before she could analyze it. Someone was hiding the truth. Someone powerful. And they did not want to be found. She had almost given up. She had almost accepted that some mysteries were meant to stay unsolved. Then the message arrived. It came from a contact in the Mordak Syndicate, a minor criminal who owed her a favor from years ago. The message was short and simple. They found a survivor. Medical Station Omega-7. Come quickly before they kill him. Kethra did not hesitate. She hired a ship and left within the hour. Station Omega-7 was even more hidden than the one she had been living on. It orbited a dead star, invisible to all but the most advanced sensors. The Syndicate used it for their most sensitive operations. Getting inside required every favor she had accumulated over 15 years of investigation. By the time she reached the survivor's room, she had nothing left to offer anyone. She hoped it would be worth it. The room was small and dark. Medical equipment lined the walls, filling the air with soft beeping sounds. A single bed stood in the center, and on that bed lay what was left of Torvix. He had been a scout in the Mordax fleet. A young soldier, barely 60 years old. His record showed him to be brave, skilled, and loyal. None of that mattered now. 3 of his forearms were gone, torn away at the shoulder. His armor had been partially fused to his skin. His eyes, all 12 of them, stared at the ceiling without seeing anything. He was found drifting at the edge of the solar system, said the doctor who had let Kethra in an escape pod that should not have been able to travel that far. He has been like this since we brought him in. Catatonic, unresponsive. Has he said anything? Words, fragments, nothing that makes sense. The doctor hesitated. Honestly, Ambassador, I don't know why you wanted to see him. He is broken beyond repair. His mind is gone. Kethra walked closer to the bed. She looked down at Torvix's ruined face. Somewhere behind those dead eyes, she knew, was the truth she had been seeking for so long. Leave us, she said. The doctor started to protest, then thought better of it. He had been paid well for his silence. He was not going to risk his payment by asking questions. When she was alone with Torvix, Kethra sat down beside his bed. She had brought a device with her, an illegal neural interface that could stimulate damaged brain tissue. It was dangerous. It might kill him. But she had not come all this way to stare at a vegetable. I am sorry for what I am about to do, she whispered. Then she activated the device. Torvix's body convulsed. His remaining arm thrashed against the bed. His mouth opened in a silent scream. And then, slowly, his eyes began to focus. He looked at her. Really looked at her. And in that moment, Kethra saw something she had never seen before. She saw absolute, complete terror. Where am I? His voice was barely a whisper. You are safe. You are far from Earth. At the word Earth, Torvix's entire body stiffened. His surviving hand grabbed her arm with surprising strength. Not far enough, he hissed. Never far enough. They can see everything. They can reach everywhere. There is no safe place. There is no escape. Who are they? Kethra asked. What did you see? Torvix laughed. It was a terrible sound, full of madness and despair. What did I see? I saw the truth, Ambassador. I saw what the galaxy has been hiding from. I saw what lives beneath the water, what waits in the darkness, what the humans have been keeping asleep for 10,000 generations. He pulled her closer. His breath was hot and foul against her face. They are not alone on that world. They have never been alone, and we were fools to ever think otherwise. Over the next several hours, Torvix told her everything. His words came in fragments at first, broken and confused. But slowly, painfully, a picture began to form. The fleet had entered Earth's solar system expecting to find a primitive civilization. Instead, they had found something else entirely. We detected the structures on the moon first, Torvix said. Massive things, ancient things, built by something that understood geometry we cannot even imagine. Drenix thought they were artifacts, treasures to be claimed and sold. What were they? Locks. Torvix's voice dropped to a whisper. Locks on a door that was never meant to be opened. He described what happened next. The power drain, the darkness, the thing that rose from Earth's ocean. It was not a creature, he said. Not in any sense we understand. It was more like a hole in reality, a place where the universe had been torn away and replaced with something else. Something hungry. And the humans. What were they doing while this was happening? Torvix was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with a new kind of fear. They were watching, standing on the shores of their continents, looking up at the sky, and they were smiling. Kethra felt ice form in her stomach. Smiling? They knew, Ambassador. They knew what we had woken up, and they were not afraid. He shuddered. They walked among the shadows like they were old friends. They spoke to the darkness like they were speaking to children. The things that were killing my brothers and sisters. The humans treated them like pets. That is impossible. The humans are a primitive species. They barely have space travel. They spend half their time fighting each other. That is what they want us to see. Torvix's grip on her arm tightened. But I saw the truth. I saw them walk through walls. I saw them speak in languages that predated the universe. I saw a human child command a horror that could devour stars, and it obeyed her like a trained animal. He began to weep. Tears ran down his ruined face. We thought we were the predators. We thought we were going to conquer them. But we were nothing. Insects buzzing around a sleeping giant. And when we woke the giant up, it was the humans who decided what would happen to us. What did they decide? Torvix looked at her with eyes that had seen too much. They decided to keep us. To give us to the things beneath. As playthings. Toys for monsters that experience time differently than we do. He laughed again. That terrible, broken laugh. My brothers and sisters are still alive, Ambassador. All 30,000 of them. They will be alive forever. Suffering forever. In the hands of things that do not understand mercy. Kethra sat back. Her mind was racing. Everything she thought she knew about the galaxy was crumbling around her. How did you escape? I did not escape. Torvix looked at her with something that might have been hatred. They let me go. The humans. They put me in that escape pod themselves. They wanted someone to survive, to tell the story, to warn the galaxy. Why? Why would they want that? Because they are tired. Torvix's voice was almost gentle now. They have been guarding that door for so long. Fighting those things for so long. They do not want to fight us too. They want us to stay away, to leave them alone, to let them do their job in peace. He reached up and touched her face. His hand was cold, like touching a corpse. They are not evil, Ambassador. They are not monsters. They are wardens, prison guards. They have spent 200,000 years keeping the universe safe from things that would destroy it. And all they ask in return is that we stay away. But the Draconians, the Mordax, they killed millions. No. Torvix shook his head. They did not kill anyone. They fed them to the prisoners. There is a difference. He smiled. And it was the saddest thing Kethra had ever seen. The humans are kind, in their way. They try to be gentle. But the things they guard, the things they live with, those things are not kind. Those things are not gentle. And the humans cannot always control them. Kethra understood now. She finally understood. Earth is not a planet, she said slowly. It is a prison, the oldest prison in the universe. Torvix nodded. Built by beings that existed before the stars, filled with horrors that cannot be killed, only contained. And the humans were created to guard it, to keep the door closed, to make sure nothing ever gets out. Created by whom? I do not know. The humans do not know. They have been doing this for so long that they have forgotten why they started. But they remember how. They remember every song that soothes the darkness, every ritual that keeps the locks sealed, every sacrifice that must be made to keep the universe intact. Torvix's eyes began to lose their focus. The neural interface was failing. His brief moment of clarity was ending. You must warn them, he whispered. Warn the galaxy. Tell them to stay away from Earth. Tell them to never go there again. The humans are not our enemies. They are the only thing standing between us and the end of everything. I tried, Kethra said. I tried to warn the Senate. They would not listen. Then try again. Try harder. Make them understand. His hand fell away from her face. His eyes closed. They are not trapped on that world with the monsters, Ambassador. The monsters are trapped on that world with them. And we should all be grateful for that. His breathing slowed. His body relaxed. The brief window into his broken mind was closing. Wait, Kethra said. I have more questions. I need to know more. But Torvix was gone. Retreated back into the safety of Catatonia. Back to the place where the memories could not reach him. Kethra sat alone in the darkness of the medical room. She thought about what she had heard. She thought about Earth and its human guardians. She thought about the things that lived beneath the water and in the spaces between spaces. And she thought about the Galactic Senate, which had dismissed her warnings and ignored the quarantine, and allowed more fools to fly to their doom. They had to know. They all had to know. The galaxy was in danger not from Earth, but from itself, from its own arrogance and curiosity and greed. She stood up and walked to the door. She had work to do, messages to send, allies to find. Somehow, some way, she would make the galaxy understand, because if she failed, sooner or later someone else would go to Earth. Another fleet. Another army, another sacrifice to feed the things that should not exist. And eventually, the humans would get tired of cleaning up the galaxy's messes. When that happened, Kethra knew. They might decide to let the prisoners out, to show the universe what they had been protecting it from. She did not want to be alive when that day came. Outside the medical station, the dead star burned cold and dark. The universe continued its endless expansion. And somewhere, on a small blue planet at the edge of known space, ancient things stirred in their sleep. They were dreaming of freedom, and only a handful of fragile, impossible humans stood between those dreams and reality. Kethra looked up at the stars and prayed to what? She did not know that those humans would never give up, that they would keep fighting forever, that they would never, ever let go, because if they did, there would be nothing left to save. The ship appeared without warning. One moment, the space near the Galactic Senate was empty. The next moment, a vessel hung there, silent and still. It had not traveled through hyperspace. It had not used any form of propulsion that the sensors could detect. It was simply there, as if it had always existed in that spot and the universe had only just noticed. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Defense systems activated. Warships scrambled from their docks. Within minutes, 50 of the most powerful vessels in the galactic fleet surrounded the strange craft. The ship did not react. It did not raise shields. It did not power weapons. It simply floated there, waiting. Admiral Corveth of the Combined Defense Force studied the vessel from his command center. He had served for 300 years. He had seen every kind of ship the galaxy had to offer. He had never seen anything like this. It was small. Much smaller than he would have expected from a craft capable of such advanced travel. Its hull was smooth and white, without any visible seams or ports. No engines, no weapon systems, no markings of any kind. "Can you identify the origin?" he asked his science officer. "No, Admiral. The materials do not match anything in our database. The design follows no known principles. It is as if someone simply imagined a ship and made it real." Corveth felt a chill run down his spine. There was only one place that kind of technology could come from. "Open a channel," he ordered. All frequencies. The communication systems hummed to life. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice spoke. A female voice, speaking perfect galactic common. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth. I request permission to address the Galactic Senate." The words hit the command center like a physical blow. Earth, the forbidden world, the place that had swallowed armadas and kept their crews alive for eternal torment. And now, a human was sitting at their doorstep, asking to talk. "How did you get here?" Corveth demanded. "That is not important," the voice replied. "What is important is the message I carry. The Senate has been making decisions about my world without consulting us. We feel it is time for us to have a voice in those discussions. You do not give orders here, human. You are in the heart of galactic civilization. You are surrounded by warships. One word from me, and your vessel will be dust." There was a pause. When the voice returned, it sounded almost amused. "Admiral, your weapons cannot harm my ship. Your sensors cannot understand it. Your entire fleet could fire at once, and I would not even feel it." Another pause. "But I did not come here to threaten you. I came here to explain, to help you understand what you have been dealing with. Will you let me speak?" Corveth looked at the tiny white ship floating among his warships. Every instinct told him to destroy it, to wipe out this representative of the world that had haunted the galaxy's nightmares for decades. But he was also curious. They all were. After all this time, after all the mysteries and disappearances, humanity was finally reaching out. "I will grant you an escort to the Senate chambers," he said finally. "But if you make any hostile move, any attempt to—" "Thank you, Admiral," the voice interrupted. "That is very kind." The white ship began to move. It slid through the formation of warships like they were not even there. The escort Corveth had promised scrambled to keep up with it. They could not. The human vessel moved too fast, too smoothly. It was at the Senate station's docking port before the first escort ship had even turned around. The Galactic Senate had not seen a full assembly in generations, but word of the humans' arrival spread faster than light. By the time Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the central chamber, every seat was filled. 10,000 species, 10,000 representatives, all staring at the small figure in white. She was not what they expected. Sarah Chen appeared to be a middle-aged human female. Her hair was dark with streaks of gray. Her face was lined but kind. She wore simple clothing without any military insignia or diplomatic symbols. She looked like someone's mother or aunt, not an ambassador from a world of nightmares. She walked to the central platform without hesitation. She did not seem intimidated by the thousands of alien eyes watching her every move. She did not seem impressed by the grandeur of the chamber. She simply stood there, calm and patient, waiting for the noise to die down. When silence finally fell, she smiled. "Thank you for receiving me," she said. Her voice carried through the chamber without any amplification. "I know this is unexpected. I know many of you are afraid. I want you to know that I understand your fear, and I respect it. You have good reason to be cautious about Earth." She paused, looking around at the assembled senators. "But I also want you to know that we are not your enemies. We have never been your enemies. And if you will let me, I would like to explain why." The Speaker of the Senate, an ancient being made of crystallized light, responded, "You may speak, Ambassador, but be warned your world has caused great suffering. You will answer for the deaths of millions. I will answer any question you have." Chen nodded. "But first, let me tell you a story." She waved her hand, and suddenly the chamber was filled with light. Images appeared in the air, projected by technology the senators could not understand. They saw stars being born, galaxies forming, the universe taking shape. 14 billion years ago, the universe was young, Chen said, and it was not empty. There were things here before the stars, before matter itself, beings of pure energy and will. Some of them were curious, some were kind, but many of them were hungry. The images changed. Now they showed darkness, vast, crawling darkness that consumed light and life and everything it touched. These beings did not understand mercy. They did not understand restraint. They only understood hunger. They devoured stars. They destroyed civilizations before those civilizations even had a chance to exist. They were a cancer on reality itself. The senators watched in silence. Many of them were old. Many had studied ancient history, but none had ever heard this story before. Eventually, something stopped them. We do not know what. We do not know how. But the hungry ones were defeated, contained, locked away in prisons scattered throughout the universe. Chen's voice softened. Earth is one of those prisons, the oldest one, the most dangerous one. The images showed Earth now, beautiful from space, but with something dark beneath the surface, something that waited. The beings who built these prisons knew they would not last forever. They knew that eventually, someone would need to watch over them, to keep the locks sealed, to make sure nothing ever got out. She looked directly at the senators. So they created us, humans, specifically designed to live alongside horrors, specifically evolved to survive things that would drive any other species insane. A senator from the Velthari collective stood up. Kethra. She had aged greatly since her days as an ambassador, but her eyes were still sharp. You are saying that humans are artificial? Created beings? We are saying that humans had help, Chen replied. Our evolution was guided. Our minds were shaped. We were given gifts, resilience, adaptability, the ability to form bonds with anything, even monsters that no natural species would develop on its own. She smiled sadly. We did not choose this role. We did not ask for this burden, but it is ours nonetheless. For 200,000 years, we have kept watch. We have sung the songs that keep the prisoners calm. We have performed the rituals that keep the locks sealed. We have sacrificed our own people, sometimes willingly, sometimes not, to feed the things that cannot be allowed to go hungry. The chamber was utterly silent now. Every senator was listening. When the Draconian Armada came to our world, we tried to warn them. We sent messages they could not understand. We showed them signs they did not recognize. They ignored us. They invaded anyway. Chen's expression grew pained. We could not save them. The things we guard do not distinguish between friend and enemy. They only see food. And once they tasted draconian flesh, once they realized there was an entire galaxy full of beings they had never sampled. She shook her head. It took us years to calm them down. Years to convince them to go back to sleep. And still, they wake sometimes, dreaming of the feast they were denied. Another senator stood. He was from the Mordax Syndicate, a successor to the organization that had lost 30,000 soldiers to Earth. "My people died on your world," he said. His voice shook with barely contained rage. "They went there foolishly. Yes, but they did not deserve to be tortured for eternity." "No," Chen agreed. "They did not. And I am sorry. Truly sorry." She met his eyes without flinching. "But understand this, we did not choose to torture them. The things we guard did that. We tried to stop it. We tried to convince them to let your people die in peace. But some of our prisoners, they do not listen to us. They are too old, too hungry, too alien. All we can do is contain them. Trying to control their behavior is like trying to reason with a hurricane." She turned to address the entire Senate. "This is why we have stayed hidden. This is why we never reached out. We knew that if the galaxy learned about the prisons, there would be those who wanted to open them. Scientists who wanted to study them, warriors who wanted to use them as weapons, fools who thought they could control beings that existed before the stars." Her voice hardened. "We cannot allow that. The things we guard are too dangerous. If even one of them escaped, it would consume everything. Every star, every planet, every living being. The entire universe would become food for an entity that does not even understand what it is eating." The Speaker of the Senate raised a limb. "What do you want from us, Ambassador? Why have you come here now?" Chen took a deep breath. "I have come to ask you to stop. Stop sending ships to our system. Stop trying to investigate our world. Stop treating us as a mystery to be solved or a resource to be claimed." She looked around the chamber one more time. "We are not your enemy. We are your protectors. We have been keeping you safe for longer than most of your species have existed. All we ask in return is that you leave us alone to do our work." A long silence followed. Then, from somewhere in the back of the chamber, a voice called out, "And if we refuse, what will you do then?" Chen's expression did not change. But something in the air shifted. Something that made every senator suddenly aware of how small they were, how fragile. "We will not attack you," she said. "We will not invade your worlds or destroy your fleets. We do not believe in violence unless there is no other choice." She paused. "But we will also not continue to protect the door if you keep trying to force it open. If the galaxy insists on treating us as enemies, we will simply step aside, let you see what we have been protecting you from, let you meet the things that dream beneath our oceans." Another pause. Longer this time. "You have seen what happens when a handful of those things wake up hungry. Imagine what would happen if all of them woke up at once. Imagine them spreading across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Imagine the last moment of your civilization, when you finally understand what you have unleashed." She smiled again. But this time, there was no warmth in it. "We have guarded this door for 200,000 years. We will guard it for 200,000 more if we must. But we will not be conquered. We will not be controlled. And we will not be tested." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. "I am broadcasting this message to every world in the galaxy simultaneously. Every species will know the truth. Every government will have the same choice to make. Stay away from Earth and live. Come to Earth and become food for things that will keep you alive forever." She looked at the assembled senators one last time. "We did not want this burden. We did not choose this fate. But it is ours, and we will carry it until the end of time if necessary." Her voice softened. "Pray you never learn what is on the other side of the door we guard. Pray you never have to understand what it costs us to keep it closed." She turned and walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop her. No one said a word. At the door, she paused and looked back. "We are the lock," she said quietly. "And we will not be broken." Then she was gone. Her white ship departed the way it had arrived, instantly, impossibly, without any trace. The Senate sat in silence for a long time afterward. Some senators wept. Others prayed. A few simply stared at the empty platform where a human woman had stood and explained why the galaxy should be grateful for its own ignorance. The vote to reinforce the Earth quarantine passed unanimously. Some doors, they finally understood, were better left closed, and somewhere, on a small blue world, the humans continued their endless watch, singing to monsters, feeding nightmares, keeping the universe safe from things it could not even imagine. They did not celebrate their victory. They did not even acknowledge it. There was too much work to do. There always was. Commander Vorath had stopped counting the years. In the beginning, he had tried. He had marked each day by scratching lines into the stone walls of his cell. But the walls healed themselves. The scratches disappeared, and eventually, he realized that time did not work the same way down here as it did in the universe above. Sometimes a moment lasted for centuries. Other times, years passed in what felt like seconds. His body did not age. His wounds did not heal. He existed in a state of perfect, eternal preservation, alive enough to feel, alive enough to suffer, but never alive enough to change. This was his punishment for invading Earth. This was what the humans had given him to the things that lived beneath their world. His cell was not really a cell. It was more like a bubble of stable reality floating in an ocean of impossibility. Beyond the translucent walls, he could see things moving, shapes that had too many dimensions, colors that did not exist in any spectrum he knew. Sometimes faces pressed against the barriers, studying him with curiosity that felt older than the stars. He had learned not to look at them. Looking at them made the madness worse. But today, if it was day, if the concept even applied, something was different. Today, the door to his cell opened. A human walked in. She was young by human standards, perhaps 30 years old. She had dark skin and darker eyes and hair that fell in thick curls around her shoulders. She wore simple clothes, a shirt, pants, boots, nothing that suggested she was anything special. But Vorith knew better. He had been here long enough to recognize the wardens when he saw them. "Hello, Commander," she said. Her voice was gentle, kind even. "My name is Maya. I've been assigned to check on you." Vorith said nothing. He had stopped speaking long ago. There was no point in words when you were living in a nightmare that would never end. Maya sat down across from him. She moved with casual ease, completely unafraid of the horrors that swam in the darkness beyond the walls. She had grown up with those horrors. They were as familiar to her as the sky was to other beings. "I know you probably don't want to talk," she said. "That's okay. Most of the prisoners don't. But I wanted to let you know that things have changed, up above. The galaxy knows about us now. About Earth. About what we do here." Vorith's eyes flickered with something that might have been interest. "The Senate voted to enforce the quarantine." Maya continued. "No more ships will come. No more soldiers will be fed to the things below. You and your soldiers were the last ones." She paused, looking at him with something like compassion. "I know that doesn't help you. I know nothing can help you now. But I thought you might want to know that your sacrifice meant something. That your fate convinced the galaxy to stay away. That no one else will have to go through what you went through." Vorith opened his mouth. His voice came out as a croak, unused for decades or centuries, or however long he had been down here. "Sacrifice," he repeated. "You call it sacrifice. We called it invasion. We came to conquer you." Maya nodded. "I know. And I'm sorry we couldn't save you. We tried. We really did. But the things down here, they don't listen to us the way they used to. They're getting restless, hungry. It's harder and harder to keep them satisfied. Then let them out." Vorath's voice was bitter. "Let them devour the galaxy. Let everyone feel what I have felt. We can't do that." Maya's voice was sad but firm. "No matter how much you want us to, no matter how much they want us to, the door has to stay closed." She stood up and walked to the edge of the cell. Beyond the translucent barrier, something enormous shifted in the darkness. A single eye, larger than a planet, blinked slowly. "That's one of the oldest ones," Maya said, gesturing toward the eye. "We call her grandmother. She's been asleep for most of human history, but she's starting to wake up now. She can feel the others getting excited. She can taste the fear coming from the galaxy above." The eye focused on Maya. It was a gaze that should have driven her insane, that should have crushed her mind like an insect beneath a boot. But Maya just smiled and waved. "Hi, grandmother. Go back to sleep. Everything's fine." The eye blinked again. Then, impossibly, it closed. The massive shape retreated into the deeper darkness. Vorith stared at the young human with something approaching awe. "How?" he whispered. "How do you do that? How do you command things that could destroy the universe?" Maya turned back to him. "We don't command them. We never have. We just live with them, talk to them, treat them like family." She shrugged. "They've been down here so long. They're lonely, angry, confused. They don't remember what they were before they were imprisoned. They don't understand why they have to stay locked away. We help them with that. We give them company, purpose, something to care about other than hunger. They torture my soldiers. They keep them alive for eternity to feed on their suffering. Some of them do. Maya's face fell. The young ones, the ones who haven't learned patience yet. We try to stop them, but we can't be everywhere. We can't control everything. She looked at him with genuine sorrow. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. If I could free your soldiers, I would. But I don't have that power. No human does. Vorath was silent for a long moment. Then he asked the question that had haunted him since the day he arrived. Why? Why do you do this? Why do you spend your lives guarding monsters that would destroy you in an instant if they could? Maya considered the question. She seemed to think about it seriously, as if no one had ever asked her before. Because someone has to, she finally said. Because if we don't, everyone dies. Not just humans, not just the galaxy. Everyone. Everything. The universe itself would be consumed by things that don't even understand what they're eating. She sat back down across from him. My grandmother did this. My great-grandmother. Every ancestor I have, going back 200,000 years. We've been singing the songs and performing the rituals and keeping the door closed since before we had written language. It's not a job for us. It's not a duty. It's just who we are. And you don't resent it? You don't hate the universe for putting this burden on you? Maya laughed. It was a genuine laugh, warm and bright. Sometimes, when I was younger, I used to dream about running away, going out into the galaxy and living a normal life, seeing the stars, meeting other species. Her smile faded. But then I think about what would happen if I left, if all of us left, and I know I could never do it. I could never abandon grandmother and the others. They need us. And in their own strange way, I think they love us. She looked back at the darkness beyond the walls. They're not evil. Not really. They're just different. Old. So old that they've forgotten how to be anything other than what they are. But there's still something in there. Something that responds to kindness, to patience, to love. Vorath thought about the things he had seen since arriving here. The horrors that had torn his soldiers apart. The nightmares that had fed on their screams. He could not imagine loving those things. He could not imagine anyone loving them. But the humans did. Somehow, impossibly. The humans loved the very things that would destroy them. And maybe, he thought, that was why they were able to keep the door closed. Because the monsters loved them back. Maya stood up again. I have to go. There's a ritual tonight. One of the deep ones is stirring, and we need to sing her back to sleep. She paused at the door. I'll come back again. Check on you. If you want to talk more, I'm happy to listen. Vorath looked at her. This strange, fragile creature who walked among nightmares like they were nothing. Who treated cosmic horrors like family pets. Who carried the weight of the universe on her shoulders without complaint. Why do you visit me? He asked. I am your enemy. I came to conquer your world. Maya smiled sadly. Because you're lonely. Because you've suffered enough. Because even after everything that's happened, you're still a person. And everyone deserves kindness, even their enemies. She left. The door closed behind her. And Vorath was alone again with the darkness and the things that swam in it. But something had changed. Something small, but real. For the first time since his capture, he did not feel completely hopeless. Far above, on the surface of Earth, the day continued as normal. Cities hummed with activity. Children went to school. People worked and laughed and loved and lived, completely unaware of the ancient prison beneath their feet. They did not know about grandmother or the deep ones or the things that existed in the spaces between spaces. They did not know about the rituals or the songs or the sacrifices that kept them safe. They lived ordinary lives, dreaming ordinary dreams, never suspecting that their entire species had been created for one purpose. But some of them knew. In a small town in what the humans called New England, an old man sat on his porch and fed something that had too many mouths. The creature purred like a cat as it ate, its impossible geometry folding and unfolding with each bite. Good boy, the old man said, scratching the thing where its head might have been. Good boy. In a village in what the humans called Japan, a young girl played with shadows that did not match anything casting them. The shadows danced around her, forming shapes that would have driven any non-human insane. The girl laughed and clapped her hands. Again, she said. Do it again. In a cave in what the humans called Africa, A woman as old as humanity itself sat in the darkness and sang. Her voice was soft, barely more than a whisper, but it carried to the deepest parts of the prison. The things that heard it stirred in their sleep, comforted by a lullaby they had known for 200,000 years. The song had no words. It did not need words. It spoke directly to something beyond language, beyond thought, beyond the physical universe. It said, "Sleep. Be calm. You are not alone. We are here. We have always been here. We will always be here." And in the deepest part of the prison, in a place that existed outside of time and space and reality, something ancient stirred. It was vast beyond comprehension. It was old beyond measurement. It had been imprisoned before the first stars formed, and it had been waiting for release ever since. It was hungry. So hungry. It could feel the galaxy above, teeming with life. So many worlds, so many beings, so much food. But it could also feel the humans, the tiny, fragile creatures who stood between it and its meal, who had been standing there for longer than most species had existed. They were so small, so weak, so breakable, and yet they had never broken. Not once in 200,000 years. They kept coming back, generation after generation, singing their songs, performing their rituals, keeping the door closed. The ancient thing considered them. It had hated them once. It had tried to break them many times. But they always came back. They always kept watching. They always kept caring. And slowly, over thousands of years, the hatred had faded. Not into love. The ancient thing did not understand love, but into something else. Respect, perhaps, or maybe just acceptance. They were the wardens. They would always be the wardens. And as long as they kept singing, it would keep sleeping. It was not happy about this. It would never be happy. But it had accepted it. This was the way of things. This was how the universe worked. Somewhere above, a human child placed her hand on the prison wall. She could feel the ancient thing stirring in its sleep. She could sense its hunger, its frustration, its endless yearning for freedom. "Shh," she whispered. "Go back to sleep. Everything's okay." And impossibly, terrifyingly, wonderfully, the ancient thing obeyed. Its vast consciousness faded back into darkness. Its hunger subsided. Its dreams turned away from the galaxy and back toward the void. The child smiled and walked away, unaware that she had just done something that would have been impossible for any other being in the universe. She was human. This was what humans did. Far away, in a bubble of stable reality floating in an ocean of impossibility, Commander Vorath listened to the silence. For the first time in what might have been centuries, the screams of his soldiers had stopped. The things that tormented them had retreated into the darkness. The prison was quiet. He did not know why. He could not understand what had changed. But he felt something he had not felt since the day his armada had entered Earth's solar system. Peace. He closed his eyes and let himself drift. Not into sleep. Sleep was impossible here, but into something close to it. A state of rest. Of acceptance. He was not forgiven. He was not free. He would be here forever. A prisoner of the things he had tried to conquer. But he was not alone. The humans would keep visiting. Keep talking. Keep treating him like a person instead of a meal. And maybe, given enough time, enough eternities, that would be enough. Above him, the universe continued its endless expansion. Stars were born and died. Civilizations rose and fell. The galaxy turned slowly on its axis, completely unaware of the prison at its edge. But the prison remained. And the humans remained, singing their songs, feeding their monsters, keeping the door closed. They would do it forever if they had to, because someone had to, because that was what humans did, because some doors were never meant to be opened, and as long as one human drew breath, they never would be. In the end, that was the terrifying truth the galaxy had finally learned. Humans were not the monsters. They were the only thing keeping the monsters contained. And the galaxy should fall to its knees every night and thank whatever gods it believed in that humans were willing to do the job. Because if they ever stopped, if they ever gave up, if they ever walked away from the door they had guarded for 200,000 years, there would be nothing left. Nothing at all. Only hunger. Only darkness. Only the things that had been waiting since before the stars were born. And they would never stop eating. Never. The child on Earth's surface looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, she knew, were worlds full of people who had finally learned to be grateful. She smiled and went back to playing. There was nothing to worry about. The door was closed. The humans would make sure it stayed that way, forever.